meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his newest expert and quickly becoming one of the favorites. How you doing, Taylor?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. So one of the things that I have been following for a long time is the consumer, right? I got an econ degree and then went and got an MBA, an accountant, right? All these things, but I've been studying the consumer for better part of 3 decades. And one of the things that I have come to appreciate about the consumer is something that economics calls the wealth effect. I think we've seen the wealth effect on steroids the last 2 years, which is kind of shocking in the middle of a pandemic. I think we're about to see the wealth effect go in reverse. So what is the wealth effect from you? What do you think about it? Do you watch it? All that stuff.
Oh, it's hugely important. As you and I talk more and more, you hear a lot more from me about psychology when it comes to investing.
Yep.
And the wealth effect is all about that psychological effect of how much money people feel they have in their pocket, how wealthy are they relative to where they've been in the past, how wealthy do they expect to be moving forward. And when you had the stimulus checks get pumped out to the better portion of America, vast majority of Americans, they went out and they said, okay, I'm feeling flush right now. It came out of a time that was weird too, because you think about it, you were so cooped up and you hadn't spent any money. So if you were getting a paycheck, if you still had a job, most of that money was remaining in your pocket, whereas you would have spent a good portion of it in the past going out and doing whatever you're doing. And then you had this additional glut of money hit your pocket that all of a sudden you were like, okay, now the doors are open back up to outside. Restaurants are open. Let's go on vacation, whatever it was. And they went out and they spent money, and it caused this massive, massive jump in the economy in a very, very short period of time. That was last year.
Yeah. And not so much right now.
Yeah. So we're seeing the other side of it now. And the other side of it comes in a couple forms where, one, there's no check. So like that Christmas that came in whatever it was last year, that's not coming again this year.
Right.
And the other part of it is with the Fed raising rates, it affects anybody that has any form of floating debt.
Yeah.
So floating debt might be an adjustable rate mortgage. If you already hold a mortgage, that's going to go up. Credit card debt is a revolving door of adjustable rate debt that's already really high and going to go even higher. Student loans sometimes are that way. Anyone that's going to get a new mortgage is in that form. So all of a sudden you start to see mortgage rates go from, I'm just going to use round numbers, on a 30-year, 3% to now they're above 5%.
Yeah.
Whoa. This is kind of scary. Can I now afford to go out and buy a house?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then all of a sudden, the trickle-down effect of just housing is so massive, because then you're not buying furniture and you're not buying a new washer and dryer and you're not painting the house. You're not putting in flowers in the flower. The housing effect is such a massive one. And that comes down to rates, the wealth effect, et cetera. So I'm getting off course here. I'll let you realign me. But
that's exactly.
It's massive.
Yeah. So when I think about the wealth effect, I think about it from 2 aspects, right? There's, I don't know what they call them. Let's just call them the rich, or at least the high income earners, 100K or more, right? Which is really interesting, right? So family households that make 100 grand a year, according to the numbers I've seen, make up roughly 75% of consumption, right? Discretionary spending, right? They have more to spend. It makes sense.
Yep.
But what is really concerning is that cohort, based on some numbers, consumer sentiment numbers over the last month, that collection of folks is scared, which is concerning. And then you talk about the other 25%, which is probably a larger number of people. They're getting smoked. Food, rent, transportation. They don't have anything left. So what felt like extra money last year is got to feel like, I mean, inflation is the reverse. Inflation is basically like a negative stimulus check to everyone. Some of us can handle it. Most of us can't.
It's a regressive tax. So our tax structure is a progressive tax structure. When you make more money, you pay more. A regressive tax works the opposite way. And so what it says is that, gas price goes up for someone that's rich or poor, and it's disproportionately affecting the poor. And the real important thing when you understand the difference between demographics in the United States is that, Michael, and we've talked about this in the past, if you have a couple extra bucks in your pocket and you're a rich person or a wealthy person, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. It might make a difference in the stock market, because you may spend less in the stock market if you have a little extra money because of inflation. So it might affect financial assets. But the bottom end of the market that does not have discretionary money that they have the ability to hold on to and invest, whatever it is, their discretionary money gets spent. Exactly. And so therefore, when gas costs more to get to and from work, food costs more, rent costs more, they have less money to then go out and do other things that they might do with that money at the end of the day. And then they need to start looking in the mirror and saying, okay, where can I cut things?
That's exactly
when the economy starts to sputter, is exactly when, all these things are kind of a confluence of events that have come together. And your point of inflation being a massive wealth effect is so well put.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we've got to get through this, right? The other thing I want people to hear from this is I'm generally a very positive person. Bear markets suck, but they're also great opportunities when you're ready, right? If you had dry powder, or you had something put away, you can do some crazy, get stuff on sale, right?
Oh yeah. We talked about this in the past, and you asked me what Wall Street's thoughts of Warren Buffett are. And he seems like this humble, genuine, and gentle giant. But at the end of the day, he's a savage, and he's a savage because he's relatively conservative most of the time. And he's fearful when others are greedy. Mm-hmm. And then the paradigm shifts when others get fearful, and he gets really, really greedy. So Goldman Sachs, this is a great, after we brought it up in that one episode, I'm like, I need to get a little bit more into this. So what he did was went out and had Goldman Sachs issue him preferred shares. So he essentially got stock out of Goldman Sachs. Mm-hmm. And to own that stocks, not only was he going to get the return in the stock market, this is also in 2008, 2009. So sorry for the context. 2008, 2009, Goldman needed liquidity. They needed someone to step in and shore up their balance sheet. So he said, issue me preferred stock. I'm going to get the same stock return everyone else does, but you're also going to pay me 10% on the $5 billion that I'm going to give you. You're going to pay me a 10% coupon. And then the kicker on it at the end of the day is he issued a warrant that said, if I want to buy $5 billion more of this in 5 years, I can do so. That's called bullying someone capitalistically when they don't have any other option. What did they say? Come on, bring it in. We don't have anything to do. And he killed it. And
he wrote a check for $5 billion. He probably made $5 billion.
Yeah, exactly. And so but to your point, bring it back to the consumer, you can't be over your skis and risk.
Exactly.
If you're over your skis and risk, you're a forced seller to someone like Warren Buffett, who will come in and take those shares because they were too conservative coming in, you would say, but then they have that dry powder to get so hungry and get so aggressive.
Yeah. The tried and true way. I mean, I remember talking about David Portnoy like two years ago when he called out Warren Buffett, said, I'm killing him. I'm cleaning him up. The old man's lost it. Oh yeah. All right.
Remember he moved into Penn National Gaming. He took a Matt Portnoy and he has got, he caused a lot of the inflation in that stock price. So I don't know if he's actually lost on that, but so many of his followers have to be pissed at him because that went to the moon.
Yeah, they followed him in. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what it's trading at today. It's just PENN, right?
PENN. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Where's my phone? There we go. PENN.
And I want to say it got up near 200 or something like that.
Yeah. So it's at 37 today with just round numbers. It got as high as
I have to have overshot that. It can't be that bad, right?
125, maybe
125. Okay.
Yeah. Still.
Yeah. So it's cut by
75%. Hey, how do you like me now? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
Kathy Wood all over again.
Exact. Just another version. And again, I remember anytime again, I did it. I said it. I knew it would happen. So when I hear David Portnoy do this, I'm like, dude, you're going to get crushed. You're going to be over your skis. You're going to win a few times. You're going to go further out on the risk curve and you're going to get smashed.
Yep. And I always use the analogy again. I'll use it again. I said in the last episode, being too risky is a much, much worse feeling than not having enough risk.
Amen.
Not having enough risk is not a good feeling itself. Because you're like, oh man, I'm missing out on some things I could be really making a lot of money in. And you're either under risked or you're prudent doing the right thing. And then on the other side, when you're too risky and the paradigm shifts, it is a gut wrenching experience that you never want to have again in your life.
Exactly. That is the quote. Having experienced it once and lost 80% in a very short window, I will never be too risky. I will default to less risk. So
yep.
I love this conversation. We got to watch the wealth effect, folks, as it will impact the economy. It will impact asset prices. It will impact consumer behavior, savings, all of this stuff. Taylor, where can people find you?
At Life Goal Investments. Follow us on Instagram at Life Goal Investments.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Mm-hmm.